This week on the pod, AJ and I discuss the 2004 horror classic Saw. This is I Pierce the Toast. I'm Sean.
And I'm AJ. Let's make some toast.
Welcome back to I Pierce the Toast.
What? What'd you just say?
I believe I said I Pierce the Toast, AJ.
I think you mean IPTT.
I think I mean I Pierce the Toast.
I think you mean IPTT.
AJ, what's going on in the news?
Well, first of all, you're not going along with the bit, but that's just fine. There's not really a whole lot that's going on in the news right now.
Well, I mean, did we not hear something about Drew? Didn't Drew finally back the hell off?
I mean, I guess, yeah, if we're going along with what we were talking about last week.
We should preface that. So we actually tried to record this several days ago, and Joe the studio dog had a bout of just enjoying himself, licking away, and that was all over the audio, and then the puppy was just going crazy, so we had to move back recording. So, yeah, let's hop into a couple of things we talked about on Thursday. So Drew Barrymore, with the WGA SGA strike, she did kind of roll back her decision and decide not to move forward with her show without writers, which I think is a smart decision on her part. Now, I know some people are being a little unforgiving about it, and I get it. You know, a lot of people feel that some of these Hollywood types are out of touch, but you know, she dipped her toe in. She tried to do this, and now she's backing it off, and that's the right decision. So, you know, no matter how you feel about it, she's going the right direction right now.
We do have some horror things coming up, I guess, in the next couple of years, which I'm kind of stoked about.
Oh, yeah?
Smile 2. I don't know if you ever saw the first one.
Fucking the first one was great, but they're doing a second one?
Yeah, they're doing a second one. I don't know what they're going to do.
The thing that was in Smile wouldn't have gone away, because it's...
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's an ethereal, ghosty, supernatural figure, so...
And at the end of the movie, I mean, it's kind of... You could easily do a sequel off of that.
Oh, so, yeah, I mean, It got passed on, so there was a next person for it, right? So, yeah.
So there's that, there's Beetlejuice 2, I mean, that's not really spooky, but, I mean, there's going to be no Beetlejuice movie. The Exorcist Believer, I believe, comes out either next week or is already out. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, I'm actually really stoked for The Exorcist, because The Exorcist was probably one of the first movies that truly terrified me as a kid. And I've seen the subsequent ones like The Exorcist 2, The Exorcist 3, which are awful, but The Exorcist 3 was like Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movie, which is fucking crazy to me. Then they've had like spin-offs of that, but this one seems to be going back to the roots. And I'm really stoked about that.
See, I don't know. I could never get into the whole possession thing, because I don't know. Whenever I see possession, even in a film, to me, it's just, that's a person that probably had, like, especially when we're talking about historical possessions, you know, when they talk about, like, the possession of yada, 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 and they're talking about something that happened in, like, the early 1900s or the 1800s. All I can think is, that was probably a person with mental illness, and that was mischaracterized as... possession, and all they did was just make life much worse for that person.
I mean, but in these movies, it's true possession. So
well, I mean, obviously, in these movies, you know, their heads are literally turning all the way in 360. So it's like, okay, there might be some merit here within the context of the film. Oh yeah, for sure. But still, even then, it's hard for me to suspend my disbelief and really enjoy. But I did have interesting encounter on TikTok, not like personally talking to someone, but a young woman put out a TikTok where she was asking an interesting question, and I thought, you know what, AJ and I can answer this, because we know the answer to this, and it's weird because you and I are uniquely qualified to answer this question. Uniquely qualified. So her question was, what did people do before? How did people look up information before the internet? Now, a lot of people stopped and stitched the video there, but she went on to specify what she meant. Like, if you didn't know the name of an actor and none of your friends knew who it was, how did you find out who they were? And so the answer to that question is, we used to have these things called Leonard Maltin's movie guides. So anyway, Leonard Maltin would come out yearly with his movie guides, and every year I would get my dad one. That was like the one thing we always knew we could get him for Christmas. And you know, it would just have these huge indexes, and each performer will be listed with all of their credits, so you could easily look up an individual, find out what their credits were, and then, you know, like, so if you knew that this actor that you couldn't remember the name of was in a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, you look up Leo, you find out what movies he's in, and then you go to those movies and you start searching. That's how we did it back then.
So you didn't just play 6 Degrees? Like, you just didn't do that all day?
Well, no, we could do 6 Degrees, but then we just all had to assume we knew what we were talking about. We didn't have the Oracle of Bacon website. we just had to hope to God we all knew what was going on. But AJ, that's not what we're here to talk about.
What are we here to talk about today?
AJ, I want to play a game.
Monopoly?
Yes.
Yeah, I love Monopoly.
Thanks for coming on the pod, everyone.
It tears families apart.
It does. But thankfully, we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else that tore families apart. The 2004 film, Saw.
Ooh.
Now, I'm curious if you have a better answer for this, but I can't think of any. Except for, like, maybe Annabella or, like, The Conjuring. Maybe those... Annabelle, excuse me, not Annabella.
Who is she?
She's a Walmart brand, Annabelle. So aside from maybe those, and even those I think would be a big stretch, I feel like the Jigsaw character of Saw is one of the last times we saw a character get created that continually comes back to haunt people over and over and over again in subsequent films.
You're talking about the most latest one, right?
Yeah, like the latest one.
I was going to say, because you have like Candyman.
Candyman, you've got Ghostface, you've got Freddy, you've got Jason, and that's what I mean. Is like that level of icon of horror franchise of a character that gets created that keeps coming back to continually haunt audiences. Because with Annabelle, it's more like, I don't know, I guess it feels more like we're just telling the story of this thing that does some haunting, as opposed to we're creating, because with Annabelle, most of those things are based off like the stories of the couple that did those things. So it's more like dramatic interpretations of potentially real events that are based on the lives of these two, paranormal investigators, versus these other films are obvious fiction. They were created specifically for a horror purpose, and they have a central character who has a continuous, repetitive need to fulfill his killer desires, right? And I can't think of another one. I can't think of another one that we've seen since that. We've seen some recurrences of some old ones, like Pennywise from It, or what was the one you just mentioned?
You talk about I don't care remember what the fuck I should say, guys. It's been a long day already. It's the morning. We're gonna go 11 in the morning. We're gonna go for, I should have got that charged lemonade. Speaking of which, if you are not a member of the Sip Club, this is in no way, shape, or form a plug for Panera, but Panera, give me my fucking money. Sean and I have discovered the Sip Club. Well, I discovered it about a year ago, and Sean's upset that I didn't tell him.
You damn right I am.
So you can get, I think it's like $11.99 a month. You get unlimited drinks from Panera. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so if you have a Panera near you, it's like, yeah, you can just live off that. So that's what we've been doing.
But going back to what I was saying, though, I'm thinking...
Well, you mentioned Beetlejuice. Yeah, like, even if and obviously Beetlejuice is not in that category, but even if we use that, he already existed. 2004, to me, that's the latest time where we had a new horror character that was going to be a continual staple in a series of horror films.
Because I can even think like a Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Sure. But even him, he's from the 80s, yeah.
Yeah, they have a new Pinhead coming out, or a new Hellraiser coming out, or it already came out, one of the two. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're bringing back the old hauntings, but there's really nothing new. Nothing that at least has been successful.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because...
there's definitely probably been attempts, and we just didn't know about them because they didn't have continual. And we're actually going to talk about how this manifested into a continually successful franchise.
What about like the paranormal? No, because that's different.
Because it's not there's no central character. It's different ghosts or different
demonic
entities. It's not one central character that's continually coming back to haunt. But let's dive in, shall we?
I like to dive.
So the premise of Saw, very simple. A madman named Jigsaw creates elaborate puzzles to test his victims, and we will call them his victims, even though there is some debate on that within the film. creates elaborate tests to test his victims on whether or not they deserve the gift of life that they've been given. And that's pretty much it. That's the premise. Now, last week, AJ did Knock at the Cabin. And that's an M. Night Shyamalan film, which are famous for twists. And it's interesting because Saw films, kind of equally famous for twists.
Yeah, 100%.
So we tend to get kind of a big reveal at the end of something we didn't see coming. And the first one, and this one, the 2004, even going back, knowing exactly what was going to happen, it was still incredibly exciting to get to see that twist end. So let's dive in. This one comes from director James Wan and writer Leigh Whannell?
What, Leigh?
Leigh? Is that?
What the fuck are you saying? Like L-A-Y?
L-E-I-G-H. That's like Leigh, isn't it?
That's what?
Isn't it? Is that
no?
What is
Lee?
It? Lee? How the fuck did you get Lee out of that?
Are you illiterate?
A little.
No.
I spend all my time watching movies. What do you think I'm reading?
No, bruh, you need to get your shit together. It is Lee.
So Leigh Whannell, apparently.
Yes, Lee.
So director James Wan, Leigh Whannell. I didn't go digging into this and the only reason is because there's already so much content with Saw that, going to dig even further, it was like, well, this is going to turn into like a 3-hour show if I start adding too much. But I got the distinct impression that they at least knew each other during film school. And this was sort of a creation they both put together. So even though that Lee is credited as the writer, I think James definitely had a hand in it. But James Wan ultimately was the director of this film. Now, this was his directorial debut, which is impressive, especially when we consider how many films this has spawned.
And while he's had some success, I will say he did fuck some stuff up recently.
I feel like you're going to be talking about *Malignant* now.
Yeah, that movie's a piece of shit. I don't care what anyone says. This movie is so fucking terrible. Watching this movie made me want to gouge my eyes out and then pull my eyes out, reinsert them again, look at the screen, and then do it all over again, and like just repetition. Just be like, so I just I could only associate pain with this movie.
So you'd say when it comes to *Malignant*, you're a fan.
Yeah, sure. We'll say that.
Right.
Circus clown.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
No, so you know how they do the torture traps in Saw?
Yeah,
that's what I want to do.
You want to do that when you watch *Malignant*. Like if somebody gave you the choice of rewatch *Malignant* again or be in one of Jigsaw's puzzles, you'd be like, yeah, Jigsaw puzzle, 6 days a week and twice on Sunday.
But he's had some great movies, though.
He has. He's done. He also directed *Conjurings* 1 and 2, *Insidious* 1 and 2.
Didn't he do like almost the entire Conjuring series?
I think so. Yeah, and also *Aquaman* for some reason. Like that's such a weird. And that, like we're gonna see that twice on here. It's such a weird fucking credit. Like, you're doing all these horror flicks, and then you're like, you know what? Let's do a movie about a fish man now. Like, where the fuck did that come from?
Well, I mean, we should probably make the distinction that there are some movies that he has just simply been a producer on, and there's some that he's been a director on. He directed Aquaman, but he like produced The Conjuring, so it's really not he.
Well, he directed *Conjuring* 1 and 2, but he produced some of the other Conjurings.
Oh yeah, sorry, so he's a producer there. Yeah. He has some great movies in his repertoire. I will say that like it's kind of funny that he did Saw, and there's that character within that movie that's like a dollish kind of figure, Billy.
Wait, hold on, what?
Billy. The doll.
Like from Jigs, that doll? It has a fucking name?
Yeah, Billy.
It's got a goddamn name?
Yeah, he's the Blue Power Ranger.
Why the fuck is his name Billy?
I don't fucking know.
I didn't come across this at all.
No, his name... You don't know Billy?
No.
Everyone knew his name is Billy.
Why the fuck would his name be Billy?
I don't...
Okay, to clarify this for our audience, we're talking about the doll that appears within Saw. So within this film, there's kind of this... It's a very iconic representation of Jigsaw. Now, the doll is not Jigsaw. It's just a kind of a doll he uses to creep people out, I guess. And that's really the only way to use it. And so sometimes when he's recording his videos to his victims, giving them the instructions for how to play the games, he'll use this doll. And AJ is now telling me this fucking doll has a name, and it doesn't have some name. It's not like the doll's name is not Jigsaw or, I don't know. what's like, or Death, or The Deliverer. It's Billy, fucking Billy.
It's fucking Billy the Puppet.
Billy the Puppet.
Look, I'm looking it up right now.
That is not what Billy the Puppet should be. Something that has Jeff Dunham's hand up its ass. All right, that's what Billy the fucking Puppet should be.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
We can buy Billy on a tricycle for $89.99 at Target.
Oh, is that all? So if anybody wants to send us $90, please don't fucking do that. Do not send us $90 to buy a goddamn doll.
I think with James's repertoire, though, he does a really great job in his movies. He knows how to do the suspense and everything like that. But I also think he has a fucking problem with dolls because he's produced, I think, 3, not including like all of the fucking Jigsaw movies, but 3 different types of doll movies.
I mean, dolls are creepy. I get it.
Dead Silence, Megan, and fucking Saw.
I mean, I get it. Dolls are creepy. Did you see Megan? It was fucking creepy.
Yeah, fucking creepy ass. I almost had a panic attack.
Now, speaking of producing, since we're talking about some of James Wan's production credits, the producers for this film were Greg Hoffman and Orrin Cools. Now, there was an interesting part about this. Greg mostly produced the Saw films with a few exceptions, and Orrin was mostly the same, but also did Reboot the Genetic Opera, which is kind of badass.
That's a good. We got to talk about.
And we're going to be covering that in October. Absolutely. Now, AJ, didn't you tell me that Greg Hoffman passed away?
Yeah, he did. He died in 2005.
Yeah, 2005.
But he's still credited.
Yeah, he's still credited. So, yeah, AJ, you and I are in the wrong line of work. You and I have to get our dumb asses up and produce this show week after week.
Okay.
And we're getting peanuts. And this son of a bitch, he fucking dies in 2005, and he's still getting paid.
Wait, did you say peanuts?
Yeah.
What money are you seeing from this?
I'm not. We're literally getting peanuts. We literally have viewers send in peanuts.
Are you hoarding all the peanuts?
So the cast.
Fucking IPTT traders.
We're going to change the name of the show to I Pierce the Peanuts. So moving into our cast.
Ooh.
Let's start off the top with Tobin Bell, who plays John Kramer. Now, like so many horror icons, such as Robert Englund, Tobin has plenty of credits, but this is what you're going to know him from. Yeah. So if you're thinking about Robert Englund, you're like, oh, yeah, sure. He was also in that kind of horror reimagining of Phantom of the Opera, or I saw him in this, that, or the other. But it's like, no, you hear Robert Englund, you think Nightmare on Elm Street. You hear Tobin Bell, you're going to think Saw. Yeah. That's what he's famous for. But some of the other things that he did do that were fairly, well known. He was in Mississippi Burning in 1988. And he was also in The Firm in 1993 with Tom Cruise. I had completely forgotten he was in that.
He did a voice in The Road to El Dorado.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Which one?
Zaragoza? But he was just grouped under like the voice talent, but I guess he was just one of the people in the audience.
Gotcha. Now, I will note, Tobin actually won't be in the latest iteration of Saw, which is actually coming out next month. So kind of exciting news there, and kind of the reason why we're doing Saw this week is kind of give you guys a little refresher on the very first film that started the entire franchise, and for which we're going to get yet another installment coming this October. Next we have Leigh Whannell.
Yeah,
Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell. I like how that kind of rolls together. Leigh Whannell. That almost sounds like one big name. Like I want to name a kid Leigh Whannell. Who plays Adam. So again, he wrote the script for this film. He also wrote scripts for Insidious and the sequels, as well as the latest adaptation of The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss. AJ, why can't I say Elizabeth Moss' name?
Because is
it Kim Basinger? Is it Kim Basinger?
Yeah, it's Basinger.
Basinger? Basong. As far as acting, he's been in The Matrix Reloaded. Obviously, he's been in several of the Saw films, despite the fact that there's going to be, a reveal for this one that he was in.
Yeah.
He's in several of the Insidious films, The Bye-Bye Man, and then, of course, because this is just the weird fucking thing with him and James Wan, he was the cargo pilot in Aquaman. Like, what the
So it's like, I guess their friendship does not leave Leigh wanting.
I'm proud of you. But I'm also disappointed.
I saw what you did there.
Heyo. Name of the movie. There it is. Next, we have two pretty iconic actors next to discuss. First one, Carrie Elways, who plays Dr. Lawrence Gordon. I'd say there's going to be very few of our audience members, even some of the younger audience members that we have that might be in their, like their teens, that are probably not going to at least have some semblance of knowing who Cary Elwes is.
Yeah.
He's had a storied career from romantic classics like The Princess Bride to comedic classics like Robin Hood Men in Tights, Twister, Liar Liar, Hot Shots, The Crush, Kiss the Girls. He's done voiceover work like Batman Beyond. He had a story arc as a famous art thief on Psych. More recently, he was Mayor Larry Klein on Stranger Things. He's going to be he was in the most recent Mission Impossible film with Tom Cruise. He's going to be in that
really cool Rebel Moon movie that's going to be coming out.
Super stoked literally, the man has done it all. I mean, thrillers, comedies, television, film. He does it all. Action, for God's sakes. I mean, just unbelievably storied career. Now that I have thoroughly filleted the man, now I have to talk about some of the bad, because he actually filed a lawsuit against the producers of this film.
Does it have to do with something along the lines of what like the WGA is fighting right now?
No, he said that something was promised to him, and then so he claimed that he had been promised 1% of the profit, which would have been pretty considerable considering that this was very, the film earned like over 100 million globally. And I guess he didn't get that. The case was like finally settled out of court, but because of those disagreements, he actually chose not to be involved with any of the sequels until Saw 3D came out in 2010. So we're talking like 6 year, and in that 6 years, a lot of Saw films came out.
And there was a big reveal in Saw 3D, so it's like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, it was actually really cool the reveal because and we'll get into that, but little spoiler alert for the end of this film. We don't actually know that, like, at the end of this film, we don't know the fate of Dr. Lawrence Gordon. We don't know what happens.
Or not Leroy now. What's his name? Andy? Adam?
Yeah, no, we know what happened to Adam.
Well, I mean, you don't really know what happened to Adam.
You're right. You find out what happened to Adam in Saw 2.
Yeah, pretty quickly. I mean, it's towards the end, but you do find out.
It is towards the end. I did the same thing you and your fiance did. I started going back and watching all the Saw films because they're so great. They're so fucking great. Next, we have Danny Glover, who plays Detective David Tapp.
I love Danny Glover.
Another Hollywood legend. And it's pretty easy to determine where everybody's going to remember him from. They're going to remember him from the Lethal Weapon films with Mel Gibson.
What? No, Angels in the Outfield and Operation Dumbo Drop. What the fuck are you talking about?
Fuck out of here. Get out of here. But Glover has had 196 credits since 1978. And to try to even cover all of them, like, I'm so glad you came up with a couple examples because I was like, no, I'm not going to try to cover all of them on this pod.
He's done so many of
them. So I'll note my favorites. My favorite is actually The Rainmaker, which is funny because I like how you use like more like comedies and children's films.
That's what I liked.
My favorite was The Rainmaker, where he played a judge alongside Matt Damon and Danny DeVito. And then he actually has a recent film coming out called Double Souls. He's in the film with Julian Sands. You remember Julian Sands?
Ooh,
yeah, I know. This will be Julian Sands' final film, obviously, because as people may or may not know, we actually lost Julian Sands. Was it this year or last year?
I think it was this year.
Yeah, I think it was in one of the fires or a disaster or something. He was unfortunately the performer Julian Sands was on a hike, and so I think it was like a hurricane or something hit, and they lost track of him, and unfortunately they didn't find him.
It was this year.
Yeah, it was this year. So he's appearing in the final film, Double Souls, with Julian Sands, so that's pretty cool.
He was also Jethro in The Prince of Egypt, so that...
Julian Sands or Danny Glover?
Danny Glover.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, he's got 196 credits.
So many.
He has 196 fucking credits. The man loves to work, and since 1978. Holy shit.
I will tell you that probably one of my all-time favorite roles that he has been is kind of a bit role. It's another voice acting role. It's in the movie called Ants, where he gets his fucking head cut off.
Jesus.
His name is Barbados. And he's just like...
dark.
No, the funny part of this movie is like, he's like, help me up, Zeke, where his head's cut off, and he just picks it up, and he's carrying him around.
Now, I'll say that Danny is definitely not the main character of this film, but, he's got several scenes.
Oh, yeah.
You know how many days it took him to get all of his stuff taken care of for this film?
2
days.
Really?
Got it all knocked out in 2 days.
That's a good little paycheck right there.
Yeah, right? 2 days of work and just done? Oh, man. Next, we have Ken Leung, who plays Stephen Singh. And, yeah, he's got a lot of great credits. So let's just dive in here. Most notably, probably most people are going to remember him as Miles from Lost. But he was also in, you were talking about that film Old, so he was in that with M. Night. He was Admiral Satura in The Force Awakens. He's done films like Family Man, Keeping the Faith, Rush Hour.
Yeah, he was Sang.
Yeah. As well as numerous TV spots, such as like Oz, Person of Interest, and The Blacklist. So he's done quite a lot of work too. So
my role that I know him from is X-Men: The Last Stand, where he played Quill. His fucking power was just he could shoot quills out of his body. That
was he one of the ones that Magneto, like they went to that like little underground place, and there's like those three whatever, and then one of the three has the ability to tell like what level of mutant you are. Okay, yeah,
he's in that little group.
Yeah. Next we have I gotta focus in on AJ for when I say this name. Hold on, here we go. Next we have Dina Meyer.
I know Dina Meyer.
I know you know Dina Meyer. Who doesn't know Dina Meyer?
I know her from one movie in particular.
Is it Starship Troopers?
It is fucking Starship Troopers. Yeah, it is.
For those that are unfamiliar, Dina has several nude scenes in Starship Troopers, and she is an absolutely gorgeous woman.
Yes, she is.
She is a and honestly, strangely, a phenomenal actor, but you don't really get to see her in a lot. So I don't know if that's a choice or if it's a typecast or what, because I would have loved to have seen Dina Meyer in more stuff over the years. But she actually has some impressive credits. She's been in American Horror Story. She was in Johnny Mnemonic. Did you know that? I completely forgot she was in.
It's been a long time since I've seen Johnny Mnemonic. I want to watch it again because
I watched
that's a really great Keanu film.
Yeah, and I did not. It didn't click for me that Carrie Meyer was in that, or Dina Meyer, excuse me. She plays Carrie in the film, by the way. She was also in Star Trek Nemesis. I do remember her from that. But again, like AJ and I alluded to, most people are going to remember her as Dizzy Flores in Starship Troopers. So, but yeah, it's funny because Starship Troopers, I think most people would agree, it wasn't the greatest film ever, but it was a fun film, and it was very outside of the scope of the book.
It is spooky season, so we could do Starship Troopers.
No, that's an action film. That's not a horror film. That is an action film.
It's spooky. I like it.
Not spooky. Next, we have Shawnee Smith, who played Amanda. Shawnee got her start pretty young, around 14, but was quickly able to book The Blob, Leaving Las Vegas. She had a small role in Armageddon, and I'm going to see. Do you remember her? From Armageddon?
I do. She was in the scene with Steve Buscemi. Yeah, Steve Buscemi scene, and he's like, "Oh, that's a big diamond."
That's her. Yeah, that's her.
And he's like, "Oh, but that's not a diamond." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Do you want a drink?" She's like, "Yeah." I told Amanda that when we were watching this. I was like, "That I know her."
Yeah. She was in The Island. She was
The
also
Island. Which one is that one?
The Island. The one where we talked about it on the Michael
Clark Duncan
episode.
Because I think there's like a couple Island movies.
You're right, but it's that one. She was in that one. She was also in a short version of Repo the Genetic Opera, and she played like the role of Heather, and it surprisingly has a lot of the same cast as the film. But yeah, there's a short of it, which is interesting.
Was this whenever they were trying to get the movie made and they did like the stage production version of it?
Possibly, because interestingly enough, apparently that's a fairly common thing. Like they even did that with Saw. They had a they did like some concept, like a concept short of Saw of what it would look like, and they used that to sell the film to studios.
It's like the Mortal Kombat movie, Conquest, I think it was, whatever. It was like a little online short where they were trying to like say this would be Mortal Kombat in this universe. They kind of did the same thing.
Yeah. So I guess maybe that's what it was, but it had some of the same people in it. So yeah, pretty cool. Fun fact: Shawnee actually ended up with this role because Amy Lippens, the casting agent, asked James Wan, the director, who he wanted to play Amanda, and he said Shawnee on a whim from having had a crush on her as a teenager.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Isn't that great? Like, just imagine somebody calls you up and be like, hey, you want to be in this film? Like, I've never even heard of this. Why are you guys considering me? It's like, oh, the director thinks you're hot.
I'd be like, well, thank you.
well, thanks, I guess. And then finally, and there's a few other actors in this film, but we're not going to go into some of them just because there's really not a lot of need for them. But the final one we're going to talk about is Michael Emerson, who plays Zep, Hindle. Along with Ken Leung, Michael's probably most known for being Ben on Lost, but he's also Harold Finch on Person of Interest. Most recently, he's been with Leland Townsend on the show Evil, with Michael Coulter and Katja Herbers. So mostly what I know Michael from is television. I think he's got like a film credit here or there, but he's pretty big in TV. He usually gets like these really big roles on some pretty well-known TV spots.
I'm not going to let Sean skip over 2 characters real quick. It's very quick how I'm going to talk about them. But Diana Gordon and Allison Gordon, they play the
mother and daughter. Yeah. I purposely left them out because, I mean, they're integral to the story, but we don't get enough characterization from them in terms of moving the plot forward. Yeah. They are not integral to, and I guess here's my thing.
They're the driving force for Gordon trying to get the fuck out of what he's trying to get out of.
Here's the thing, though. If you look at every person I listed on this thing, every single one of them had the potential to be Jigsaw. They, like, as you're watching the film. So imagine you don't know how it ends. That is true. Every single one of these people could have been the person that was doing all this. That's why I left out the mother and daughter, because in my mind, they were never suspects.
That's cool. That's
any of the cops could have been Jigsaw. The Dr. Gordon could have been Jigsaw. Adam could have been Jigsaw. Zepp, obviously, he could have been Jigsaw. Yeah. John could have been Jigsaw. Everybody in this thing could have been Jigsaw, but they couldn't.
I mean, but it's mostly because the fucking... You got Alexa Vega, who we were just talking about, Repo. Her fucking sister's in this movie.
Oh, is she the daughter?
She's the daughter.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then the girl from Patch Adams and Con Air, she's the wife.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The wife has got some great credits. She's a well-known performer.
But the characters themselves aren't.
But the characters themselves, because obviously the driving force of Saw is, who is Jigsaw? Who is the mastermind behind all of this? Who are you? Like how we just went to CSI for some reason. So let's talk some fun facts, because we can't talk about Saw, even the first one, because we're only discussing the first film today. Yeah. But we can't even talk about it without discussing the incredible franchise that this film produced. So, 18 days, AJ. That's how long it took them to put this film together.
Which is crazy, because there's so much that goes into it. It does. If you watch it now on like a 4K TV, I will say there is some filming that goes on that seems a little underwhelming, I can say, but it's just because it's newer technology.
I think I can tell you a reason for that. The intent, they were never supposed to film outside of that room. So without getting too much into the plot yet, most of the action of this film takes place inside of a dirty, abandoned bathroom. And when I say bathroom, like, it also has like a tub in there. Yeah. It's very grimy and very gross looking.
There's poo in the toilet.
There is some poo in the toilet. And the intent was to film it all in one room. That was kind of the challenge that James Wan and Lee Whannell kind of set for themselves, is to make a film that took place entirely in one location. So expanding it out, I think, was a decision to really round out some of the characterization. But that was the original intent. So you're not wrong. What you're noticing there is probably, some aspect of that intent. But 18 days, a $1.2 million budget, which they keep talking about, like, in the notes and everything of the film and some of the cast interviews. They keep talking about how it wasn't that much of a budget. It's like, that's a pretty decent budget for 2004.
No, it's not, though. Think about it.
But think about some of the other films where their budgets were like $200,000.
But you have to think about the casting as well. When you're trying to pay all of your actors and actresses, that is a very small budget.
Obviously they didn't. That's why Carrie Elway sued them.
I mean, there's Carrie Elway and there's Danny
clearly
Glover.
They didn't have to worry about that.
I mean, when you're trying to pay all these people, that's a very small budget.
I suppose you're right, because those are some big names. It was originally intended for a straight-to-video release, but after the positive screenings, it was given the nod to become a premiere film. Now, the MPAA, who is actually the organization, Motion Picture...
was it something association?
Something association. Motion Picture Association. They actually originally rated the film NC-17.
Anglers Association? What the fuck?
I don't think it's Anglers.
That's a whole different thing.
That's not film. But actually, due to the film's tone, was why it got the NC-17. So James Wan actually had to remove some of the content. So some of the things they changed was Amanda sifting through the intestines. Apparently, quite a bit of that got cut out.
Did you say in?
What?
Did you say in or M?
M.
Okay, that's why I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, Motion Picture Association of America.
Yeah, Motion Picture Association. There we go.
Yeah.
So some of the shots they changed. Amanda sifting through the intestines. Paul, and we didn't go into who Paul is, but we'll get to him within the plot of the film. Paul struggling through the razor wire. And then some of the forensic, like, as they're doing like the forensic shots, as the police are discovering the the horrible scenes after Jigsaw has done his games, some of those were kind of modified and cut down. And then apparently the color was made more even and the sound was altered, and that somehow got them down to an R rating. Like, I don't know how the fuck that works, but that's impressive.
Do you wonder if the reason that the rating that they tried to give him was so harsh is because this... And I remember watching this for the first time and being like, that was so realistic on how they depicted some of these things. Do you think that's why? Because essentially it's not as bad as Hostel, but it's almost like watching a fucking snuff film.
I mean, it could be, but... and maybe that's what they mean when they say the color was made more even and the sound altered. Maybe they found a way to kind of change the color tones within the film to put some distance between the viewer and the film.
Or like that way you didn't have that his leg off.
Because like Hostel, yeah, you're right. And I think they did the same. Like, I feel like Hostel had the same kind of colorization, disassociation. So that way you didn't feel completely like it was just watching a snuff film.
Yeah.
So you may be right. Saw 2, which was released the following year in 2005, it was approved for production the weekend this film opened. So they opened this film, people went and saw it, it was such a hit, they were like, yep, let's get another one. Green light.
Let's make this a series.
Let's do this again. It is actually the 5th highest grossing horror franchise. Can you guess what the first is?
Of horror?
Of horror. Of a horror franchise.
I'm going to assume it's probably Halloween.
It's not. It's not one of the big ones you would think.
Really?
It's one that we have talked about on the show today so far.
The Conjuring?
The Conjuring. I know. I couldn't believe it either. But yeah, The Conjuring worldwide box office gross for all the films, $2 billion. $2,291 million.
What is Saw sit at?
Saw is $1,012 million.
So James Wan is getting that money.
Oh, James Wan's getting paid.
Okay.
Oh yeah, James Wan's getting himself paid.
Okay.
That's a smart man right there. As of, I believe it's actually going to be coming out on I want to say the 29th. So by the time this podcast released, you got like 2 days before the next Saw film comes out. So as of the 29th of this month, there will have been 10 Saw films. So we've got Saw.
Good Lord.
Saw 2. Saw 3. Saw 4. Saw 5.
Oh, I can count too.
Saw 6.
Is it 7?
No, it's not.
No, you got me.
You got it. It's fun. Saw 3D.
Oh, okay.
The next one was Jigsaw. The one after that, and I think the most recent before this next iteration, Spiral.
Yeah.
The one that's it's more of a, I guess like a offshoot, but it's definitely within the Saw universe.
I haven't seen it yet. So
I haven't either, but I'm probably gonna watch it after we finish here. And then of course the next one, I don't know if it's Saw 10 or Saw X, but it is the 10th film.
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming it's 10, but
probably.
Yeah.
So now, AJ, let's get to some of the important questions here before we jump into the plot. Who's Sam Elliott playing in this film?
I think he could play Jigsaw.
Really?
Yeah.
Sam Elliott?
Would you like to play a game?
How would you all like to play a game?
So I stroke my mustache.
See, I'm thinking David Tapp. I'm thinking the detective.
Really?
Because
he did have a gravelly voice too. Gravelly,
but also
voice.
Here's what I'm imagining. Do you remember the movie Thank You for Smoking?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember Sam Elliott in that film?
Yes.
Okay. He was disheveled. He's the former Marlboro Man. The cancer has really started to affect him, and he's incredibly, just kind of a miserly, angry, bitter old man, right?
Yeah.
That I could see him with that long hair where he's just kind of peering through, and he's just very angry and very vengeful almost. You put that in the role of David Tapp, and I think it works really well.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that.
So AJ, let's hop in. Let's play a game. So Adam and Lawrence wake up in a disgusting bathroom, each chained to a pipe on opposite walls by their ankle. A body lays in the middle of the floor in a pool of blood, a revolver in one hand, a tape recorder in the other. Adam and Lawrence exchange few words before realizing they each have an envelope in their pocket, each with a tape, and Lawrence's additionally with a bullet and a key, which fails to open any of the locks holding the two men captive. After obtaining the tape recorder, they listen to their tapes. Adam is a voyeur who spent his life watching, but he's going to have to do more than watch to escape. Lawrence delivers the news of death every day, but now he must deliver death himself to survive by killing Adam. These are the instructions delivered by the mysterious man on the recordings. Adam is told if he doesn't escape, the room will become his tomb. Lawrence is told if he does not kill Adam, not only will he rot in the room, but his wife, Allie, and daughter, Diana, will be killed. They have until 6 o'clock. 3 clues are offered on the tapes. X marks the spot. There is poison in the blood. And a whisper at the end of the tape. Follow your heart. They quickly realize there's a heart on the toilet. Inside the tank is a bag with 2 hacksaws, which will prove useless on the chains. Adam tosses the bag into a nearby tub with a suspicious look on his face. As their attempts to cut the chains with the saws fail, the realization comes to Lawrence. The saws aren't meant to release them by cutting their chains. With that epiphany, Lawrence suddenly realizes who's to blame for their imprisonment, as the scene flashes back to the 3 police officers in a series of discoveries that reveal more about the infamous Jigsaw who has created the game Adam and Lawrence find themselves in. From a dead man entangled in razor wire, to a body burned to a crisp, we learn through the eyes of Carrie and detectives Tapp and Singh how Jigsaw creates scenarios intended to test the resolve of his victims, a test that more often than not leads to the death of the unwitting player.
That would piss me right the fuck off.
Why is that, AJ?
Because there I am just trying to do my thing, maybe getting a sippy, maybe going out just living my life, maybe getting a nice little fresh hash brown if I'm feeling frisky, and the next thing I do, I wake up and I'm just fucking trapped. I'm like, what about my sip club? I don't know what the fuck to do anymore.
And I think it's I'm glad you kind of interjected this, because it's a good point to talk about how there is literally discussion within the film of whether Jigsaw is actually a killer, because he doesn't technically kill anyone. He puts people in the scenarios to choose whether or not they're going to survive. He basically puts them in a survival scenario and gives them an opportunity to save their own life.
Yeah, I think it's still murder by association, 100%.
And I'm glad you say that, because there's actually lawyers who have, kind of like responded to the film or whatever, and they're like, yeah, he's still guilty of like conspiracy to commit murder, or like, I think it was like 2nd-degree murder. Like, yeah, he's still definitely guilty of murder, because without his interjection, this scenario never would have taken place. He is still definitely a fucking murderer.
It's like that, I forget her name, but that young woman that basically was sending all of those texts to her boyfriend that was getting ready to kill himself, and she kept telling him, get back in the car and everything like that.
That's right.
She did get charged.
She did get charged.
Yeah,
I think she was convicted.
Yeah, she was convicted.
Right. I do remember that story. The 3 law enforcement officers revealed Jigsaw leaves behind the tape recorders with the instructions to his victims, takes a piece of skin from his victims in the shape of a jigsaw, and always ensures he has a front row seat to his little games. Now this gets a bit confusing, but we're now with Lawrence in the hospital in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Events that occurred before his kidnapping, where he's presenting a patient in the typical cold and callous way doctors tend to present patients while on rounds. An orderly interrupts and notes the patient's name is John and is a very interesting man. Lawrence dismisses the orderly, Zeb, and attempts to continue rounds, only to be paged to his office where the detectives are waiting. And fun fact, the identity of the killer is actually revealed during there. Rounds.
Yep.
It's actually revealed there, and we're going to get into how it's revealed. Like, it's not revealed in like the killer happens to be in the room or something like that. There's a context clue literally in that room that tells us exactly who the killer is.
You have to be able to pay attention, because you can clearly see what it is.
Yep.
Because
it's pretty damning.
Yeah, it's pretty damning.
Like, it's almost a little too damning. Like, how did nobody look at that and go, wait a minute,
what the fuck is he doing over here?
What are you doing over there, man?
I'm fucking dying.
The detectives have Lawrence as their prime suspect, but Lawrence has an alibi that checks out, which eventually leads us to the police station, where they ask Lawrence to listen to the testimony of a woman, Amanda, who survived Jigsaw's game. Amanda's flashback has 3 of the most recognizable symbols of this franchise. The reverse bear trap that will rip her face open if she doesn't get out in time, the creepy doll, who now know his name is fucking Billy.
Billy.
So disappointed in that.
Billy.
Often associated with Jigsaw, and these iconic lines Jigsaw delivers.
I want to play a game. Live or die. Make your choice.
This, I think, was the first time I'd ever saw not true horror, but someone that was reacting to the situation in one of the most real ways possible. How she acts in this scene is clearly just she's very terrified, and it's so real. You almost feel like, oh my god, if she doesn't get out of this, she is going to die.
Yeah, Shawnee Smith definitely. I don't think this film would have been able to garner the reaction from audience that it did if it weren't for Shawnee Smith.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's crazy because within this film, her part is very small. Like, we literally just go to Shawnee, we do this scene. She has a little bit of dialogue after with the detectives, and then she's not in the rest of this film. But everything about her scene is so important. It introduces us to Billy the doll. Mm-hmm. It introduces us to those famous phrases. Because I went back, and I don't think he ever says, I want to play a game until this one. And this is also the first one that we see Jigsaw, instead of a tape recorder, does a video instead with Billy, doing the voicing, right? And then the live or die, make your choice. Now, I think he did maybe say that previous.
This is also the first time that you see that Jigsaw's traps are escapable if you just do what he says.
Yeah, if you follow the rules. But, most of the time it's set up in... Well, I don't know, because the razor one, and we didn't go too deep into it because I'm trying to make sure that we get all the content in here, but the razor one was essentially a guy who had attempted... it was about a guy who had attempted suicide. And so Jigsaw puts him in a cage full of razor wire and tells him that he has some sort of poison in his blood, I think is what it, or no, he tells him that if he doesn't get out of the cage,
that the door is going
to seal shut and he'll be in there forever. And I don't know, the amount of time he had, it would have killed him. There's no way to get through that razor wire without getting completely fucked up. And that's exactly what happened. The guy tried to crawl through the razor wire and it basically slit him open everywhere. They even talked about finding stomach bile on the ground because he got cut open so much.
Now, is this the one where they had the guy that was burnt alive, or is that the second one?
That's the second one. Okay. Now, that one also, a very hard one. I don't know. The one that Amanda gets put through. So, since we're going into it, we'll go into each of the individual ones. The burnt guy, his was a candle, and he's covered in, or he's been poisoned, and the antidote is in a safe, and he's been covered in a flammable solution, and he has to try to put in the combination on the safe, which is written somewhere on the wall, and the wall is completely covered in numbers.
Yeah.
So the combination could be literally anything on this wall, and he has to do it before that candle either goes out or burns him to death or the poison kills him. I don't know. I don't see that one being very attainable either, because it's maybe you'll find the right combination in time, maybe you won't. Now, with Amanda, I don't know. I felt like she was given a pretty attainable task. There's a man on the floor. There's a key inside of him, and she has to frickin' rip him open, get the key, and unlock. There's no maybe
so she got the Jigsaw for Dummies version.
Is that why you were smiling just now?
Yeah,
you were just waiting to use that joke.
I thought about that. I was like, she got Jigsaw Light.
She got Jigsaw for Billy.
Jigsaw Zero.
So, fun fact: director James Wan actually built that doll.
Really?
Yeah, he made that. Yeah. He's
paper mache.
I don't know. I didn't want to know more than that. I was like, okay, fine. He made the doll. Let's not get into this. So obviously, like I was saying, Amanda manages to dig through the live man's abdomen to find the key to her freedom. Her survival, however, is not the most striking detail of this testimony, but it was this exchange.
Are you grateful, Mandy?
Helped me.
It's pretty damning, because that's kind of what you start to realize is Jigsaw's point. He thinks he's helping people by either letting them die and giving up the gift of life they're clearly taking for granted, or giving them the chance to truly appreciate it. And here's Amanda, who we find out was a drug addict and had been to jail and had served some time. Here we find out that she's actually grateful for what happened to her. She feels like this is what her wake-up call was. And that's just crazy.
And I don't think you actually find out to the second one that the reason he's doing what he's doing is because people are missing the survival instinct, and that's why he carves that puzzle piece out of them.
Exactly, because he says that missing in the second film, that there was a piece missing of them, that thing that makes them human, and it's probably because of that we actually see Amanda return in the subsequent films.
Exactly.
And I won't go into that just in case we ever decide to
cover Saw 2, the fucking films.
But Amanda does make more appearances in later Saw films. Now we're back in the bathroom. Tensions are beginning to escalate as Adam discovers a two-way mirror concealing a camera. The men are being watched. And of course that makes sense, because as we've come to find out, Jigsaw likes to watch his puzzles unfold. Mm-hmm. At this point, we start doing a lot of jumping around, and that's kind of a thing that happens within these films. Is you kind of start moving around in time to kind of pull the story together.
I think, is that a way to confuse the audience so you never truly know what's going on?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure really whether it was just a good plot device in order to build the narrative, because obviously we don't want to know who. Like if we went back and we saw Jigsaw setting up all of his puzzles right away, and we started, and we did everything just chronologically, well, then we'd know everything from the very beginning. It wouldn't be very fun. So I think it's more, like when you said kind of confusing, I think it's a way of ensuring the audience is given the information they need at the time they need it to keep the suspense moving, and also to not reveal until the very end. Lawrence again flashes back to the last moments he spent with his wife and daughter, as Diana complains that a man is in her closet. And Diana's the daughter, just a reminder there. As we come to the present, this presents Lawrence the opportunity to share photos with Adam. Adam, however, discovers a photo in Lawrence's wallet of Allie and Diana bound and gagged. The back of the photo offers an additional clue about the X in the room. Adam keeps the photo from Lawrence, likely to spare him from the trauma of seeing his wife and daughter bound and gagged. The scene then flashes back to Allie and Diana, confirming that there was a man in the closet. The scene then flashes forward to the kidnapper, face unseen, intimidating the bound wife and daughter for his own sick pleasure. We get a momentary glimpse of the kidnapper, confirming that it's Zepp, the orderly. Mm-hmm. The shot turns to a camcorder-style image of Zepp peering out the window and zooms out to show someone is watching Zepp. Detective Tapp has posted himself in the room across the street from the Gordons' house, the walls adorned with newspaper clippings of what appear to be articles about Jigsaw. Now, fun fact, the text of those newspapers, so it shows a lot of headlines that talk about Jigsaw, but the text of the clippings have nothing to do with their headlines.
Really?
Like one of them is about Stanley Kubrick. They just took like random clippings and they just changed the headlines to be like Saw or to be Jigsaw or the case oriented, whatever. It's fun. A flashback then takes us back to Detective Tapp's perspective. We're given further insight into how obsessed with the Jigsaw case Detective Tapp became, pining over the details in the video from Amanda's kidnapping. Because as I mentioned before, Jigsaw always leaves behind the recordings or the tapes. I think personally that has something to do with this killer truly believes in what he's doing and doesn't feel like he needs to destroy or hide the evidence. He wants it to be found exactly as it was. He's pining over the details in the video from Amanda's kidnapping. He discovers a wall with graffiti markings and the sound of a fire alarm that gives Detective Tapp and Singh a location of where Jigsaw is hiding. While the duo are able to corner and confront a hooded Jigsaw with his face obscured in his hideout, unfortunately, Jigsaw's deadly puzzles extend to his lair, and Detective Tapp is incapacitated with a slash to the throat, while Detective Singh is killed by a tripwire attached to several shotguns.
This is where it gets crazy for me, because it's like the entire series could have been done if they would have caught him right there.
They could have caught him right there, and the whole thing would have been over, because we see in Saw 2 that when the cops show up to get Jigsaw, he was wanting that. He planned that.
Oh,
He had a whole scenario planned out for that. He did not plan for Singh and Tapp to show up here. But he's smart enough that he was able to get out of it.
Would you say... Because he goes on to say that he's not a killer. I think 100% he is responsible for killing Singh.
Oh, God, yeah.
100%.
Oh, he absolutely is. To him, he's convinced himself, well, I was running away from you and you chased me, therefore your death is on you. No, he totally killed Singh by setting a fucking trap that he knew that somebody might walk through. I'm sorry, if I put a bear trap in the middle of my living room and you walk in and step in the fucking thing, that's my goddamn fault. It's not like, well, AJ knew the risks of walking in a living room. In that trap. Right? AJ should have known the risks of walking in a living room. Get the fuck out of here. That's not a thing. Back in the present, we now understand how Detective Tapp's obsession turned into madness with the loss of his partner. We return to Adam and Lawrence in the bathroom. Adam encourages Lawrence to turn off the lights based on the clue he got from the picture of Lawrence's wife and child. They discover an X on the wall revealing a hidden compartment with a locked box, a lock that's opened by the key Lawrence originally received in his envelope. The box contains a cell phone, a cigarette, a lighter, and a note that tells Lawrence he doesn't need a gun to kill Adam, and hints once again at the poisoned blood of the man on the floor. And you can kind of tell the insinuation here is that dip the cigarettes in the blood and then give it to Adam, because Adam kind of starts being like, ooh, cigarettes, give me one. I want to smoke. He's a smoker. Okay, cool. Lawrence tries the phone to discover it can only receive calls, which jogs his memory to when he was kidnapped from the parking lot from the night before.
Again, this is another time where I would have to say that Jigsaw's a fucking killer, because he's pushing Gordon to kill Adam. But if Gordon does kill Adam, then Jigsaw is responsible for Adam's death. Yes, he forced Gordon to do it.
Oh, absolutely. If I hold a gun to your head and tell you, if you don't kill a person A, I'm going to kill you, you're not responsible. I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I ultimately pulled that trigger. And I think any court of law would see it that way. That,
I guess I'm trying to beat a dead horse where he's a fucking killer.
Of course he is. He's absolutely a fucking murderer. I don't, they may play the little semantic bullshit in the fucking movie, but I think every lawyer who's, jokingly decided to look at this film and, do a YouTube video on it, every single one of them has come to the conclusion, he is totally a fucking murderer.
He's a fucking killer.
He's absolutely guilty of murder. Lawrence devises a plan to try to fool Jigsaw into thinking he's given Adam the poisoned cigarette. Despite Adam's best impression of a man dying from a poison-tipped cigarette, Jigsaw anticipated a possible ruse and sends a bolt of electricity through Adam's chains.
I just got electrocuted!
Adam then flashes back to his own kidnapping from his apartment, complete with a photo darkroom where he was developing pictures of Lawrence. Dun dun dun.
Doo doo, twisty twisty, shimmy
Adam knew Lawrence all along. Back in the bathroom, Lawrence receives a call from Allie and Diana. It's clear Allie is being fed lines from the kidnapper as she relays to Lawrence not to believe Adam's lies, saying Adam already knows Lawrence, as we as the audience also know because we obviously saw the photos. Adam reveals he's been following and taking pictures of Lawrence for several days, presenting photos as evidence from the bag he threw into the tub earlier, thus the suspicious look. Adam's job is to take pictures of rich guys cheating on their wives, a trespass Lawrence is, in fact, guilty of. He kind of tries to claim that he never actually did it, and we don't actually see it. We just see that he kind of shows up to this seedy hotel room with a woman, and there's kind of a suspected intimate moment. So we can't really say for sure, but clearly he was at least thinking about it.
Yeah, the intention was there. Just because you didn't pull the trigger, you still raised the gun.
At first, the duo believed the person who hired Adam must be the culprit, but quickly realized Detective Tapp hired Adam as part of his ongoing refusal to let go of the idea that Lawrence is Jigsaw. So this entire time, Tapp has never given up the idea that Dr. Lawrence Gordon was Jigsaw the whole time.
Which does end up helping out in another way, but not the way that he wanted it to go.
Very true. This is where shit starts to escalate fast. These events all begin to happen in quick succession, which has become a staple of the Saw films. So I'm going to run through them in a very, very quick succession, much like the film does.
You talk about the flashbacks where it puts it all together?
No, it's not. It's not the flashbacks putting it all together. It's that all these events are all happening in the present and all happening quickly over like with each other. But that's a good clarification for our audience, because there are scenes where there's a bunch of things flashing. Now I'm not going to go through all those because most of those flashbacks are literally just kind of a recap to kind of like almost M. Night Shyamalan-ing us, where they go back and show you everything like, hey, look what you might have missed.
But they show it from like a different angle and they pinpoint something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. One of the photos on the floor leads Lawrence to realize Zepp the orderly was the man in his house the previous night. Adam announces the clock is at 6 and the pair are out of time. At the Gordons' house, Zepp switches off the monitors and turns to Allie and Diana. Zepp calls Lawrence to let Allie tell him he failed. Allie and Zepp wrestle for the gun, resulting in several shots fired. The shots fired attract the attention of Detective Tapp across the street. Allie stabs Zepp with a pair of scissors, sending him to the ground. Detective Tapp rushes in and exchanges fire with Zepp. Tapp and Zepp wrestle for the gun, with Zepp coming out on top. Unable to locate Allie and Diana, he announces he's on his way to kill Lawrence. Zepp drives like a madman, with Detective Tapp in hot pursuit. In the bathroom, Lawrence breaks down, thinking he's lost his wife and daughter, only to be electrocuted through his chains the same way Adam was before. Zepp arrives at the warehouse where Adam and Lawrence are being kept, with Detective Tapp close behind, exchanging further gunfire. In the bathroom, the phone starts to ring, but is no longer in reach after Lawrence's electrocution. He begins to panic. He reaches his breaking point. Fashioning his shirt into a tourniquet, he begins to saw at his own leg as Adam looks on in horror. Zepp and Tapp again wrestle for the gun, this time with Detective Tapp taking a bullet. Lawrence, now free from his chains and his foot, retrieves the revolver from the hand of the man on the floor, loads it with a single round from his envelope. Pale from blood loss and desperation, he takes aim at Adam.
You have to die.
No, I want to live! I want to live!
Sorry.
I want to live!
My family.
Adam falls to the floor. The door opens to reveal Zepp. Zepp tells Lawrence he's too late and he must die, because those are the rules. He's about to take aim. Adam pulls him to the floor and beats him to death with the top of the toilet. We get a temporary slowdown here. Lawrence, barely alive, tells Adam he's going to go get help. A terrified Adam begs him not to leave, but Lawrence is losing blood fast and doesn't see any other way. Now, fun fact before we go on here. As Lawrence is loading the cartridge into the revolver to shoot Adam, the camera briefly shows all 6 of the chambers of the cylinder to be empty. Can you think of why that might have been a problem, or why you might initially think that was a problem?
Well, if all 6 chambers were empty, there wouldn't be a bullet in the fucking gun to begin with.
Very good. The revolvers don't eject the spent cartridges. Yet the man on the floor was supposed to have shot himself with the same gun. What looked to be a simple prop error is actually some subtle foreshadowing.
Oh.
Left alone in the room, Adam begins searching Zepp's pockets, hoping to find a key to his chains. Instead, what he finds is a tape recorder. And here we cue the badass music. The music that this film is absolutely famous for. Now, fun fact about that music. Charlie Clouser composed the score for the film and came up with this iconic music in just 3 weeks. Pretty crazy for how well it's traversed the entirety of this franchise.
Yeah, you hear that and you instantly know it's
it's Saw. Yeah. Adam plays the tape. The momentum once again picks up with flashes of the past while the voice on the tape outlines how Zepp became entangled. Jigsaw poisoned Zepp to compel him into the kidnapping. The ominous voice in the recorder asks Zepp if he would kill a mother and child to save himself. As Adam listens, horrified and confused, from behind him, the man in the pool of blood begins to rise. The music continues, and the flashes to the past begin again, revealing the grand design. Jigsaw is John Kramer, the interesting person Zepp alluded to in the hospital bed. And fun fact, when I talked about the identity of Jigsaw was revealed during the hospital scene, when Zepp Emerson says he's a very interesting person, there is a diagram on the table next to John's hospital bed of the reverse bear trap. They told us all along that John was Jigsaw. The voiceover of John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, reveals he has an inoperable brain tumor that's slowly killing him, and his games are designed to teach a lesson to those who waste the precious gift of life. Adam reaches for Zepp's gun. Jigsaw electrocutes Adam once again. As he slowly makes his way out of the bathroom, Jigsaw turns to face Adam with the light behind him in this chilling final scene.
Game over.
And the door slams shut.
And then Adam is just screaming the entire time.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's chilling.
A fun fact, Lee Winnell came up with the idea of giving John Kramer a brain tumor while spending time in a neurology ward for anxiety and headaches. He said that undergoing numerous tests and expecting bad news made him reflect on his own mortality, and he used that experience in creating a character who had only a few years left to live.
That's kind of crazy.
And here's another fun fact, and this one is just, like, it really speaks to Tobin Bell's commitment. He laid face down for all of the scenes in the bathroom. There was no dummy there. They never were like, oh, let's bring a dummy and have him lay down. No, they had John literally laying down for any scene that was shot there.
They shot all those scenes in sequential order too in the bathroom, so he would have just been sitting there for all of that.
Yeah, like for crazy. Like however many hours it took to film that, he literally just laid there. Like, fuck that, man. That's exhausting.
Just laying down?
Well, because he's not just laying down. He's covered in the blood. He has to remain very still because I watched really closely.
You never see him breathing.
You never see him breathing. He's doing a great job of keeping, and fucking the director, James Wan, was probably sitting there like, yeah, Tobin, we can see you breathing again, buddy. Tobin, yeah, you got to stop breathing, man. We're our shot's on you. You can't breathe right now.
Do you want me to ring your bell?
Because his last name is Bell. So we've already kind of discussed that Jigsaw never actually kills anyone, but there's another thing we need to discuss here. John actually intended for Adam to be able to escape from the room, but due to the actions of Amanda, he was prevented from doing so. So in Saw 3 in 2006, it's revealed that Amanda was the one who threw the key on his chest instead of putting it in his pocket, hinting that she knew he was going to lose. So, and that actually becomes kind of a thing that we start to see in some of the subsequent Saw films, is this insinuation that Amanda doesn't truly, she's definitely grasped the idea of embracing the fact that she now values her life, but she's never truly understood John's vision, because a lot of times she sets the games up
to where you can't win.
So that was actually considered part of this as well, is that she helps with this.
Because Adam's key goes straight down the drain.
Right, straight down the damn drain, yeah. And that's something I didn't mention just because it's kind of quick, and it honestly doesn't really matter because he never had a chance to use it anyway.
No, but even John at the end tells him, he's like,
there's
the key to that, the key to your lock is in that
tub, yeah. But the problem is that, I think she wrapped the thing around his leg so that as soon as he moved his leg, the drain would become unplugged, so the thing would go straight down. Like she set it up to make sure he would never be able to get that key.
Which is, and again, if we want to talk about them in the future, that's going to be something where we can't really go too far into it. But there's one specific trap I remember that they were like, no, this is indicative of the fact that they could not get out of this because of the way the surgery was performed. And also, what exactly was Jigsaw's degree and everything like that in? I knew he was an engineer, but he would have had to know poisons. He would have had to know, medical procedures and stuff like that. I mean, was he just that well-versed?
I think that's all it was supposed to... That was the insinuation, because he spent years planning a lot of his games, which is weird because he's, dying. So it's does he really have the time to be planning games this elaborate? But no, I think we're just supposed to assume that he's an incredibly brilliant individual that can, put the planning together a lot faster than most people would be able to.
And while I love this movie, I will say the second one is by far my favorite in the entire series because it's literally everything just works in that movie.
It does. Now, I want to know if you thought about this. Did you? So you've been rewatching them recently as well?
Yeah.
Did you sit there, look at it, and go, "Oh, it's like an escape room"?
Did you know there's a Saw theme escape room in Las Vegas?
Yes. Remember we talked about this? We talked about going to Vegas to go to this. So you know what? There you go. Bachelor party. We'll go to the Saw theme.
Oh yeah,
room in
because
Vegas.
I'm getting married.
You are. You'd be a grown up.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I do want to say thank you to Amanda, my fiance. She's actually taking over getting a lot of our social media together, where she's going to be making sure that we have like a TikTok, a Twitter, all these things we've talked about doing. We just haven't had the time, but now we're gonna be able to have these things for you.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, the one last thing I want to bring up. There's a creator on TikTok. I think it's pronounced Masonide. I think is how he pronounced it. It's like Masonide. So I don't know if it's Masonide or Masonide. I'm not really sure how he pronounces it. But he tells this elaborate conspiracy that Kevin McAllister from Home Alone actually grows up to be Jigsaw. And he evidences it so well that it's pretty fucking convincing. It's this idea of like, well, yeah, Adam, Kevin McAllister, he loved to set traps for bad guys and put them in these elaborate scenarios, just like Jigsaw. And Kevin McAllister's next door neighbor, he thought he was a serial killer, yet somehow he was willing to befriend him, even when he still thought he was a serial killer. Why would he think that was okay if he didn't have a little bit of psychopathy? So, and then he points to a doll that's in the film of Home Alone that kind of looks strikingly similar to Billy. I mean, it's just all this shit that he puts together to paint this picture that Kevin McAllister grows up to be Jigsaw.
Hey, if you push for it enough, sometimes these things do manifest. I mean, they were saying that Shaggy was actually like the most powerful character like ever, and now Shaggy from Scooby-Doo is like considered super powerful.
Oh my god.
So, like I said, while watching this on a 4K screen, I can say that there's just some things about watching older movies that kind of stand out to me, and it's the camera work, I think. When they switch back and forth between cameras, some of them look ultra realistic and some of them don't.
Well, there's actually a reason behind that. It's really neat that you picked up on that. So James Wan actually wanted the camera movements to reflect the emotions of the two main characters. So we've got Dr. Gordon, who's being, until of course the things start to escalate.
Yeah.
He's very calm, very measured, very pragmatic, whereas Adam is very, panicky, shaky, kind of, probably having some nicotine withdrawal. So James,
sweet cancer is what he says.
He does say that. So James actually filmed Gordon with a steady controlled shot and Adam with handheld shots. So he could kind of distinguish between, use the camera as a means to distinguish between their emotional states.
I don't know if I just put this together or not. Is this supposed to be the final Saw?
This next one?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea. Why?
Because if you think about it this way, remember in this movie, he says X marks the spot.
I was just thinking that when you said that, like, oh God, is that, I hope not. I hope that's not what they're doing. I want more Saw.
You want to see more Saw.
I want to see more Saw.
I want Seesaw.
I want more Seesaw.
So, Sean, where can we watch this movie? Because I feel like the only places I could find it had ads.
Well, once again, AJ, as we've seen with other films like The Birdcage around Pride season, because we're in the midst of spooky season, there are a lot more options. So you can see it on Prime, Spectrum, Oxygen, Sling, Peacock, Stars, NBC, USA, Bravo, E, Sci-Fi, Telemundo, and Stars on the Roku channel. All of those will require a subscription, but if you have the subscription, you can watch it on any of those platforms. And then in addition, if you want to pay for it, for $3.49, you can watch it on Row 8, and for $3.99, you can watch it on Vudu. Now, I have a feeling that if you're watching this in December, those options are going to be a lot more limited, but because we're in the midst of spooky season and the next film is coming out in 1 month, I think a lot more platforms are showing it. And I don't know about you, but Prime keeps kind of pushing it towards me, like all the films. It's like, hey, you want to watch 3? How about 4? How about 5? How about 6? How about 3D?
Or you could even buy it. I think there's a collection on Amazon. I think I saw it for like $10.
Nice.
Yeah, you can get like the 8 collection DVD.
Nice. Well, our music is created by Augusta Denise, logo by Design World, social media by the future Mrs. AJ, mixing and editing by IPTT Studios, and a special thanks to studio dog Joe the Boxer.
And we want to hear from you in your own slice of toast. Tell us about the films that you think we and others should see, actors to showcase, or topics to discuss. You can reach us on Instagram at IPTT_podcast, email us directly at IPTTpodcast@gmail.com, or interact with us directly through the Spotify app. Future social media will be reported in the future.
And if you ever find yourself in an elaborate puzzle designed by a madman, a terrifying voice on the recorder, given only one unthinkable option of escape. Remember,
live or die, choose your toast.
Thanks for listening.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore.